I'll never forget how exciting it was when I was about 16 years old when somebody began to build a large home on the empty lot at the end of our street. A big cement truck rolled up to pour the foundation, and for the next 2 weeks, we could hear the sound of heavy pounding as the carpenters framed out the walls and the windows. And then, as quickly as the project started, it abruptly stopped. All the carpenters left, and I never knew why. Not another nail was pounded. The frame stood there for the next several years, just a house of sticks and not much more. Some of the jobs that God gives us stall too. About 500 years before Jesus was born, the Israelites returned from exile to find Jerusalem in ruins and their much-loved temple destroyed. With great enthusiasm, they began to rebuild it. But then Zerubbabel, who was the Jewish governor of Judea under the Persians, made little more progress than laying the foundation before opposition set in. Local people fought the project tooth and nail, finally succeeding in getting a restraining order to halt the construction. Zerubbabel's enemies mocked him, and his supporters became discouraged. For years, the construction site just stood silent. Zerubbabel must have felt like a failure. Have you ever felt like you failed? When you fail, your self-confidence fades away. Sometimes we even cut ourselves off from the outside world to protect ourselves from even more pain. We don't want to get our hopes up too high again. And we look to the ground rather than trying to reach the sky. And we start talking about the good old days rather than looking to the future. And then one day, a man of God by the name of Zechariah began to speak words that pierced Zerubbabel to the heart and filled him with fresh hope. "This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel," came the message. And that message, given about 2,500 years ago, is our Bible verse for today, Zechariah 4:6. "Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts." Zerubbabel could probably feel his heart pounding as the message continued. "What are you, O mighty mountain? The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this temple, and his hands will also complete it." The rebuilding of the temple must have seemed like an insurmountable mountain, but now, with God speaking directly to him, he knew that he could finish the temple. The final words of this prophecy from Zechariah jolted him. "Despise not the day of small things. Men will rejoice when they see the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel." And how does this story end? In spite of all the obstacles, all the enemies, all the odds against him, Zerubbabel was able to complete the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. How often are we faced with obstacles and doubts? We can sometimes become so discouraged that we don't even want to try again. But God delights in taking the small things and making something out of them. Down through history, we can see the pattern. One single rod in Moses' hand delivered a nation from Egypt. The jawbone of an ass in Samson's hand killed 1,000 Philistines. 5 smooth stones in David's hand killed a giant named Goliath. And 5 loaves of bread and a couple of fish in the hands of a young boy fed a multitude. What little thing, what dream have you lost? What failures have you had in your life? God delights in taking human weakness and showing his strength. Stop and take another look at your forgotten dreams, this time through the eyes of faith, and see what God can do. And remember our verse for today, "Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts." Oh, and by the way, I went back to my old neighborhood several years later, and I found that someone had finished that house at the end of the street. It's beautiful.